Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to work on the next part of our music app series. So in the previous video we implemented the login flows and the registration flows, and in today's video what we'll do is that we'll work on the home screen. So we'll be designing the home screen, we'll fetch the data from the server, and we'll try to populate the data on that. So without wasting any time, let's just get started with the code. So this is basically the design that we are going to work on, which has like the name of the user who have logged, sorry, welcome back, along with the name of the user who basically logs in. Then we have this a couple of icons. We'll not be using those icons for now. We'll basically add it later on when we actually implement this functionality. In the continue listing, we'll basically show the list of the songs that we have. Then we have albums that we would like to show, and then based on the recent, they can be recommendation. So basically, the backend that we have right now is not that intelligent. So it will basically return the similar data that we have, and I also don't have enough of songs and all that in the backend. So what I did is that basically I used the single song as an audio, but like I changed the title and name so that we can differentiate in terms of how the UI looks. Okay, so for now we'll basically work on that, and yeah, let's just get to the code now. Before we begin, a huge shout out to our first channel members, Harsh Masand and Jual Sandoval. Thank you so much for your amazing support. You're helping me keep this channel going strong, creating tutorials, building real projects, and sharing everything I learned. Now, let's just dive into today's video. Okay, so we have our Android Studio open. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create a new project, sorry, new branch from there. So I'll say part seven, and we'll say this is a home home implementation. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do over here is basically to set up some sort of API call, which basically fetches the data from the server, and then we'll try to basically show that data to the on basically on our app. So to get that, what you need to do is that you need to go back to your Swagger API. Make sure again you need to pull the latest changes, because I've made some changes to the backend. So what it will do is that it will create some dummy data for you in your database so that you can use it. So yeah, that's important. And you need to just load this screen over here. So once it's there, in the bottom you can see you have this home section that says get home page data, and you'll see something as like continue listening section that has a song. Then we have top mixes that also have some albums related stuff, and then recommended song is again something that we'll have. So like we have these three sections that we need for our home. So I basically created this endpoint for that. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna take that response that's been provided over here. We'll just get that, copy that, and we'll go to our Android Studio. So now over here, we'll go over here, right click, and then we'll go to the Kotlin data class. You can just place the uh, JSON that we have copied from there. And now over here, we'll say home data response. So once you do that, you can just generate. And what it will do is that it will create all the relevant files for you. For example, like the artist continue listening section that basically contains the artist song strings and stuff like that. The home data section, which means now it will contain a list of continue listening, and inside that, I think between this and this it's basically similar. So you can just delete the continue listening section instead and use the list of songs there. So you can just delete that, go back to this and go for song. That's one thing, and same is the case for this one. I think the top mix is, oh, so yes, this is going to be this. The recommendation song is again similar, so we can get rid of that as well. And I'm gonna delete that instead and change it to song. That's also another one. And then this top mixy is basically not top mixy, instead this is an album. So I'm just gonna change that to album and call it an album over here for this. Now if you go over here, you'll see that this is basically something like this. So now we have this home data response that basically takes gets basically this ID. We have some artist related data and we have some album related data. So that's what we have right now. And now the next thing is, do we need to go to the network section, go to the API service, and now inside that what we need to do is that we need to define a method for that. So it's a get method, and from there you can just say slash home, and now over here we'll say suspend function get home data like this, and then from over here you can say response of home data response. So something like this should be there. Now just make sure that the endpoint that we are trying to access is the correct one. So you'll get over here and you can say that it's basically slash home, which means that this is the correct one. So what I'm gonna do is that this will basically use something like this over here. Now that's one thing. Now in the previous video, you remember we created an authentication repository that handles all the authentication related stuff. So now what we need to do is that we need to create one more repository, and that repository is going to be for home. So we'll go over here, create a Kotlin class, name it as home repository. Okay, and now we'll add the single annotation for Koin. And now inside that you can define your functionalities, for example get home data like this. So what we can do is that we can get rid of that and try if we can open this. Okay, we have the home data response. Now over here we'll basically do something like this. Now this API service is not available, so what we need to do is that we need to make sure to inject that API service from the through the Koin to this. And I think that's pretty much what it should do. What it's doing is that it's basically making sure if the API call is successful, it's returning success, else it's returning error to us, depending on the different kind of errors that we might have. Okay, so that the repository is there. Now the next thing would be to basically work on this, like take this repository and handle it from the home view model. Now inside this home you can see we don't have anything right now. It's just the boilerplate code. So we don't have anything much over here right now, but we can work on that. So basically the first thing that we need to do is that we need to check if the home state is this, which is fine. We have like 3 different states that we have and we would use. Then in the home view model you can see that we have some basic stuff ready over here. And now inside that what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna set up this get this repository that we created over here. So I'm gonna say private wall home repository as home repository. So now the repository is there, and now inside this functionality what we can do is that we can fetch the data. So I'll say ViewModel scope.launch. Now inside that what we'll do is that we'll basically do something like this, which means that now this data, but instead what we'll do is let me just get rid of that and remove this. We don't need this. Okay, we'll say something as get home data, which means now the data will be fetched, and now we'll say when. And now inside that we'll basically pass the data, and depending on that we'll say if the data is this, you can pass this as a success into the basically section where we need it, and else you can do it this way. So we might have to update slightly the state for that. So we'll go to home state over here, and rather than using this, instead what we'll do is that we'll change it to the home data response, which is what we want. So home data response is there. Home view model will stop complaining, and this fetch data will be called as soon as we land on this. So as soon as we land here, we'll basically call it. The same functionality will be called for on retry clicked as well, which is this. So you don't need to do this. Instead you can just directly call fetch data for this. That is on retry clicked, and I think there is nothing else that we need for now. We'll just show the data to the user. So we are good over here. Now basically the view model is ready, the home state event is ready, and now we'll go over here to our home screen and we'll try to like basically show some sort of stuff to the user. So now for that, what I need to do is that I need to go to the home screen, and inside this app nav graph, you can see that I have this home routes. We haven't set anything over here, but we can just set it something like this for home. And now inside that, we can get rid of this. So the home is there. As soon as someone logs in, they will land over here as a on the home screen, and then this home screen is supposed to show like over here. This is something where when we basically show all the stuff that we need. For example, the internal, for example, the songs, the list of songs, and all that. So I'm just gonna add some spacing over here so that we have enough space over here. And now over here, I'm gonna create composable function home screen content. That's one thing. And now what we need to do is that we need to set up the like pass the relevant data. So I'm going to say data as home data response. That's something that we'll do. We'll definitely add more functionality. For example, on song clicked as this, and then on album clicked as well. So these are some functionality that we will use later on. We right now we don't have that play song functionality and all that. So I'm just not gonna implement that. But I think we can have that, and later on we'll basically work on this. So that's something that we have now. We need to start working from the very basic, like from the very scratch, which means now this is the section where we can work on how do we manage the screens. For example, we have a header bar. So for that, I'm just going to create a new composable, and we'll say function home header. Okay, and now inside this, what we need to do is that we need to pass the data of the user. So let's say username as string. That's one thing, and that's something that will show. We would also want, like, if there is an image as well. So let's say user image. For now, we don't have any image, but let's say in future you wanna implement the user profile section where you have the image, so you can also have that image as well in this section. And this is basically I'm talking about this section. So like you have this circular image, and then you have this welcome back text, and along with that you have this name beneath that. So that's something that I'm talking about. So now that's something that we'll do, and after that you have this section. So let's just work on the first one. Now inside that, it's pretty clear that it's a raw, and this raw needs to be have some sort of spacing and all that. So I'm going to say modifier dot fill max width. That's one thing. Then we'll add some padding from each side. So let's say I would like to have at least 16 dp for each side for this. And after that, what we can do is that you can create a image. So for now, we don't have any other image, for example. So I'm going to use painter uh, painter resource r dot drawable dot. So let's just import that. So we can do this dot. We don't have any icon, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna export the same image that we have from here. Okay, so when we export, you'll see that it's something like this. You can just export that. I'm gonna say IC profile for that. And I'm now gonna copy that and place it in the Android Studio so that we can use it. So we'll go over here into resource drawable and paste this. Right, so it is IC profile for that, and you need to define the content description for that as well. Now we need to define some more stuff as well, like modifier for this, and then that modifier is supposed to be uh, to have a clip, which means now it will be a circle shape. That's one thing. You can also add a size to this. So like the size of this image should be, for example, I would say 24 dp. So we don't take like a lot of spaces from there. That's one thing. And now since it's a raw, the next thing I would want is that I need a welcome back text, and beneath that I need some sort of the name of the user. So that's another thing. Now we have this Musify spacer, which is adding some space. And now over here, what I need is that I'll basically create a column, and that column needs to have two text. So the first text is going to be very straightforward, and it says welcome back with a sign of exclamation. You can also say a color on primary for that. And also I would want that style to be slightly like kind of a titleish. So we'll say material theme dot typography dot title, maybe title medium. We'll see if later on if we can add that some spacing to that. The next thing is going to be the name, and that is going to be not on primary, or you can say on primary dot copy. And then this alpha should be like 0.70. So like we'll add some sort of uh, slightly color differentiation for that, and you can verify that over here as well. So let's say if I can create a preview composable. So we'll say preview composable, sorry, function composable, and sorry, not function composable. Let's say preview home header, something like this. And you can just switch there to this. Now you can see that we have this. Maybe we don't need the spacer, and also the size should also be slightly bigger. So I set it to 24. I would say let's add 48 for this. Now once you do that, you'll see that I think this makes sense now. And to basically fix one more thing, I would say vertical alignments to be center as well. So center vertically, so that it can center everything. Now it looks much better, right? So now that's the header. We have that header done. Now inside this, you know that we need to create a column for that. So I'll just create a column, and we'll say modifier dot fill max size. So fill max size for that. And now from over here, I'm gonna say home header for this. And I need a couple of more things. For example, I would say name as a string, which I would like to pass here. And for now, I'm gonna pass null for the header as well. I'll also make it a null one as well, because if the user image is there, I don't want to do it this way. We'll say over here, let's say if. So for that, we'll use this. So in either case, we'll use an image section like this, and we'll say if this is null, not null. Sorry, it should be, if it's not null, then I think that it should use the user image instead of user profile. So basically, to use a URL for image, what we need to do is that we need to integrate Koin for that. So we'll go over here to this section and add a relevant dependency for that. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here. So these are the dependencies that you can do. You can always change it to version catalog. So like it, go over there, and then you can sync it. So once you sync it, it will take some time, and meanwhile it takes some time, we'll get over here to this section, and rather than using an image over here, what we'll do is that we'll use an async image. Okay, so now the SDK is imported. So what you need to do is that you can just say sync image, and now rather than using a painter, you can say model like this, and it requires any. So you can define like a painter resource for that as well, and you can also use the user image for that. So what we did over here is that if the user image is available, it will show the user image. Else it will do is that it will basically use the hard-coded IC profile icon that we have. So for now, we don't have that. So we can do something like this for that. Okay. Sorry, the name should be there. Okay, so now the header is implemented. The next thing that I would want to implement is this section that have a continue listening title on top, and then we have this some sort of a grid that have these like two sections for the songs. So yeah, so let's just implement that. So for that, again, I'm gonna say composable function continue listening section, and then over here what it will do is that it will require a list of songs from us. So I'm going to say list of songs. So we'll say list of song here. Now we have something like this setup. Okay, and again it's going to be column. So there are like two ways. One way is to do it through this. Second one is to basically use a column scope for this. Now it will basically use the column scope uh, for you. And now over here you can say is that the first one is that the text that we need. The text can be, let's say, continue listening, title medium, that's there. Then we have some spacing that we would want to have, again spacing. And now over here you can create a like different kind of side. Like for example over here it's we use a list of that. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna use yeah, it's going to be lazy vertical grid. And now inside that you need to define the columns for that. So we'll say column is equals to grid cells dot fixed. Now inside that you can define the count of how much columns should be there. And now over here, the next thing is that you can basically do something like this. Instead, I'm gonna say items, and make sure to like use the one with the list one, and then you can just pass that list to this, which means now it will be doing something like this. You can also define a key for better performance of your grid. So you can say list. Sorry, it should be it.id, which means now basically it will do something like that. And now over here we have the song item. So now I'm not gonna use song item because the songs item could be different for different sections. So I'm gonna use a composable, and that is going to be function grid song. Okay, that's one thing that we need. And now this grid song is very interesting thing. So basically if you go over here to the design section, you can see that it has a title and then an image. So that's all that we have over here, nothing much more like in terms of information that's available. So we need just two things. One is the text and one is this, and then we also need to like have it as a full screen section. So yeah, that's that. For that, I'm gonna say is that I'm gonna create a raw. I would say raw would be fine. Now this raw will also have some sort of modifier for that. So I'm gonna say modifier dot fill max width. That's one thing. Then we'll add some padding from each side, from not for each side, but at least from the vertical side to be 16 dp. That's one thing. And then also you can also say that we should have some sort of background color for that. I'm gonna use for now. Let's just use color. I'm just using gray for now, but we'll change it. We'll definitely update that. And I would also want to have some sort of clipping. I'm gonna say over here. So we'll set some sort of clipping into that, which means that we'll be saying round corner shape, and that is going to be like maybe 8.dp for that. The background should also be slightly up over here. And let's say you want to have some sort of like basic spacing for that. So I'm going to say some spacing should be added to the start of that as well. Now we have something like this. And now I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an async image for that. And now over here, it is going to be this. I'm going to say song as song. So the model is equals to song dot cover image. I think that's the one. Content description should go as null. And now we need to define some sort of designed for that. So now the important thing is the round corner shape is slightly different for this one. Okay, so that's something. I think the size is quite bigger here. You can say the size over here that we have is, so yeah, I think it's 50 should be fine for that. So we'll use 50 for that, and let's just not use this instead. So we have this async image that's there, and along with that we'll basically create a text that is going to be the name of the song. So I'm going to say song dot title. Okay, and we'll also use like max lines for that, because we don't want to, so for this to go outside that, and then we'll be adding some style for this. So I'm going to say material theme dot color scheme dot on primary for that. That's not color scheme, it should be typography as title medium for that, and then you can also define some sort of colors. So I think that's pretty much what we have for the grid song. So we'll use that and use this as it is. We also have to add some the add pass the modifier to the top level section, so that it can take all that spacing and all that. And we also need an on click functionality for that, for this specific section. So we haven't done that. We can say on item click clicked as this, and you can do what one thing, and that is basically that once user basically click, let's use this over here, clickable, and you can say on click. So we need to pass that as a parameter to this. You can say on click as this, and now I think we are good. You can also set it as on item clicked, so that, which means now that item should be clicked. Now you go over here to this continue listening section. We know that we need to pass it from some section. So for example, we have this header that's there, and now over here under the header, what you can do is that you can add this continued section and pass the continue listening songs to this, along with the on click functionality, which is not there yet. So these are the two things that we have done. We don't have the design, like the UI for this. So let's just start working and see if basically if all these implementation that we have done till now is actually working. For now, just gonna use this John Doe for now. Since we don't have the name, I'll show you how we can get the name, because we already have logged in the user. But I think we can do something for that. On song clicked, on album clicked is not yet there. So yeah, we can keep it this way. And rather than using it for like this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say that we need some data for that. So we'll say wall data equals to this, and we'll change it to this, right? So yeah, that's pretty much we have implemented. And I think now let's just try to run it, try to log in and see if everything is working as expected. So okay, so now we have this there. You can get over here by clicking on there. I'll just create new account for me. I'm gonna say Furkan, and then if you say fk@gm.com, password is 123456 123456. Now let's just register that. Okay, so it says the failed to fetch the home data, and I think I know the reason why it failed. So we'll go over here to the logcat, and from there you can just get rid of that and see what happened is that when we attempted to go to the home section, this authorization, like it caused some sort of authorization issue, and we basically could not get that token to be part of the request. So that's why the token needs to go there to basically along with the request. So for that, what we need to do is that we need to store the token somewhere, so that we can later on get that token to use. So So for that, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create inside the data. What I'm gonna do is that we'll create one more Kotlin class, and that's class is going to be a simple class, but we'll call it as session, or you can say musify session for that for your ease. And that is that you can make it a single, again a singleton. It's pretty straightforward, what it will do. Now over here what we need to do is that we need to have a couple of things from that. So I'm going to say private wall context. So that is the context for that. And now inside that, like in this section, what we need to do is that we need to just create these shared preferences. For example, we created a shared preferences to the context, and we stored that in the shared preferences like this. So we stored it like this. We got the session object. I don't think it should be get session. Instead, it should be save token for that, and that is going to be get token for that. And also, I would say to basically function save user name for that. So that's that, and you can also get username. So I think that these are the things that we can have, and replace with that functionality. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we need. Now over here in the login view model, let's say when we go over here to the login view model, you can also import that. So we'll say private wall musify session as musify session. So now the session is there. And now when the login is completed, like over here you can see that the login is completed and we didn't get any data from the response. So what we can do is that we can say response.data, and then we'll say musify session dot save token as login response dot token, or you can say login response dot token dot let. So that's something that we add. I think well, it's going to be not null in that case, but still. And in case of user, what will do is that will save username, and that is going to be the name that we'll get. So we'll say user dot name. That's something. Okay. And this is, if once you do that over here, you will do the same thing for the register view model as well, because that's also similar to what we do there as well. So first thing is that we need to get it over here and musify session for our ease. And now inside, like over here at this section, we'll say data, we'll say login response dot token dot let is going to be the save token, and then for the user we'll basically do the same. So these are the things that we did, and now we have the token and the like all these sections ready. So we are good, and now we'll go over here to the network section. So now in the DI section over here, you have this network module that you can have. Like we have all these things. And now over here, you can add one more interceptor to this, which means so basically you can chain that. And now over here, you can see that we are passing this content header to this. That's one thing. And we also need to have that musify session over here. So we'll say musify session as musify session. And now what we need to do is that rather than building it directly over here, what I'm going to say is that I'm going to make it a request, and we'll say if musify session dot get token is not equals to null, which means that if it's not null, okay, we'll do is that we'll add that, but make sure that we have this bearer space this token section. And then in the last, what we'll do is that we'll add that as built. So this is something that we need. And now when you run it, you will see that then basically we have the user token that we can use. And now inside this home screen section as well, like over here in the view model, you can say that let me see, let me just need that, get that name for the user as well. So I'm going to create one more function and say get user name, that basically returns a string to me. And over here we'll basically use the musify session. So for that, so I'm going to say private wall musify session, and now this musify session will return dot get username. But since it's nullable, so we'll make sure that it's guessed for in that case. Okay, so that's another thing. And now we go over here to the home screen, right? And this is basically the section where we wanted to like pass that. So now we'll just view model dot get username, which will get the username to the user, and then you can use that username throughout the app. So pretty much so many things that we did. We'll just run the code once again. Get started. Let's say fk@gmm.com. Password is 123456. Login. What exactly this means? Okay, so I think there is one more issue that I have identified, and that is my register view model section that should come from there. And I think we missed something as making that request. So it should be name equals to this, email equals to this, and password equals to this. So that is important to add it over here, because somehow uh, I basically was passing wrong data into the wrong section, so which was causing some like error when I was trying to log in. So yeah, that's the problem. Now I have like relaunched the app with that fix as well with this login, and the reason I'll show you how. At for example, if I log in over here with the name Furkan and use an email as fk@gm.com, password is 123456 and when I register that, you will see that we got this. We were basically we were able to log in, and we saw that image and all that as well. And let me just close that app and reopen that. This time when I try to log in, let me just log in again. And once I log in, like re-log in, so we'll say Furkan, sorry, it should be fk@gm.com. Password is 123456. When I log in, you can see that we are still able to log in. You can see that I have this welcome back and the name, everything is there. Continue listening is there. For some reason, the image is not being shown to us, and we need to find out why is that the case. Okay, so let me just go to my logs, or like the response that I've got. So we'll go to the logcat, and now over here you can see that we have this profile pictures that are there. It should be cover image. So this is the cover image that you can use. When I It seems to be the image that's been loaded, but for some reason it's not been loaded over here. So maybe the image size that we created is wrong or something like that. So we go over here to home screen back. Now we have this image that is this. So a spacer as well. Let's just add that spacer into that as well. To me it looks fine, but I'm not sure why. But yeah, let's just do one more thing before I go there, and that is basically the main activity. So this is the section which do all the it takes all the headache. So now over here, what I'm gonna do is that this app nav graph, or this order routes should be handled based on that. So in the view model, we have these things that are there. You can add one more thing over here into this, and that is going to be wall musify session. So this musify session, what it will do, that will say function is user logged in, which means that if the user has the token, So we'll say boolean, which means this, and is user logged in means is that get token not equals to null. So if the token is there, which means the user has logged in. So now over here, we'll go over here to the main activity back, and this order routes that we basically onboarding route that we have passed over here, it will be more like if view model if view model dot is user logged in, which means that now we need to pass that home route, else we'll pass this, which means now this time it will just directly go to the home screen, and that's what we want. So let's just try once again. Okay, for now let's just do one more thing. Go to home screen, that is going to be title small, and we also need to do it as vertical alignment, alignment dot center vertically. The padding should not be there because we are already adding this 8 dp padding, that is also be like more or less just 4 dp. And let's just try once again. So the last thing that I can think of is maybe that the cover image that we are passing might be the problem here, and it might be causing some issues, but let's see. Okay, so now you can see that for some reason the image is basically completely sidelined, and that means that maybe there is some wrong with the like the data that we are passing, like the cover image. So let's see what's wrong there. So I've added this log just to verify everything that we are getting, and it should not be song dot cover image. Okay, so I can see that the image is there. The image is being loaded successfully as well, which means that it should have been loading that image, but for some reason the image is not being loaded. So what we can do is that we can add some sort of error listeners to that. So now over here we'll say on error, you can define some sort of error if there is, right? So you can see that we have some sort of problem with says that error loading image file create image decoder with image. Okay, I think I know the reason for that, and that was my mistake. So we need to fix the URLs from the backend. Okay, so now I have updated the backend with the correct URLs. You don't have to do anything. It was just problem from my end, from the backend, which means that I created some wrong URLs and all that. So what I'm gonna do is that I'll go back and just relaunch the app so that it loads the new URLs this time, hopefully. Now you can see that there are some images that are loaded. It definitely took some time to load, but I think the other image should also be loaded, but the image size is quite big. So I'll see if I can reduce the image size. But you can see that we have something like this. We can definitely fix that issue with the size that we added later on previously. So you can say size is going to be 50.dp and not more than that. So once you do that and you reload that, you can get something like you wanted. Okay, so now you can see that we have this name and the image that's there. There is some spacing that we need to fix, and I need to find out where is that spacing. Okay, so here is the spacing that we have, I think. No. Yeah, this is the spacing that I'm not sure why we added that vertical spacing to this. And hopefully this time when you look into that, it should update that, and pretty much something like we wanted over here, right? There is definitely some spacing between these two. For example, I'm not sure if how do we get that. So like it's a 9 dp overall, like 4 dp difference can be added. And when we look into our app over here, you can see that we have the similar spacing. So the first part of our app is there. We need to add some padding from this to the whole section so that it leaves some spacing from the sides. So for that, you can add some padding, for example, this padding, and hopefully once you add that, it should be just horizontal. And no, it should not be added to this. It should be instead added to the whole column scope section. So like this whole section should have some padding, as let's say, if not more, it should be at least 16 dps. So like all these sections go to the side, and now it looks much better. The title image, the title of this that we have is still slightly lower, so I'm gonna say title large for this, so the text is bigger. And I think that's pretty much what we had. The header is having extra spacing, so I'm just gonna add the vertical one to this and not the horizontal one, so that it is something like this. So yeah, that's pretty much what we have for our music. The next section would be the album section, and the album section is slightly different than how we have, like it is slightly the design of this whole is completely different. So we can work on that, and we can start implementing something for this as well. Now we get over here, and we have all these sections that we created. Just get rid of that. And now we'll create one more section that is going to be composable function, and that is going to be, what was that? The name is your top mixes. So it's going to be top mixes section, and the list now should be list of album. That's something. And along with that, you can also say on item click or something like that. And then we have like pretty much similar to what we have, but instead this is going to be lazy raw, not lazy grid. So yeah, that's one thing that we have a change now. That's there. And then you can definitely, it will complain that you don't know how to do it. So you can just again go there, use the one with the list, and everything would be fine. And then now you need to do that. You need to create a grid album for that. So I'm going to create a grid album, go over here, function, grid album, and it should contain two things or something like this. So a raw with an async image and all that. I don't think we need that this way. Instead, what we need is that we need something as, yeah, the padding should be there to the top level, and the rest of the thing should be this, like something like this. And let me just see what are the points or what are the things that are there that we can use. So the title goes on top, then we have a what do we say, it's basically the text is there, then in the background we have an image, and in the bottom we have this bar with the different colors for each song. So I think that's pretty much what it is. And we also have a 31, so let's say a 15 dp of padding horizontally from each item. So yeah, these are the couple of things that we can have. So I'm using a box now, that's there. It's clickable, its background is grayish, fine, everything is there. And one more thing I think we can do over here, and that is going to be dot size, and that is 150 dot dp, which means that it will cover all the 150 dps. Can we change the title? So that's one thing. We're not gonna use this. Instead, I'm gonna use 150 dp so that it covers everything. Then we don't need the spacing over here. And now this text is there with the album dot title, which is definitely what we want. But it should be title medium. That's one thing. Second thing is that we want that to be on top of that. So we'll say bottom top start padding from the it should be, I think it is fine, and the background should not be there. We don't have that background in it. We can change it later on if needed. So yeah, that's something that we have as a text. And in the bottom, in the last, what we need is that we have a box that is basically hardly 8.dp of size. So I'm gonna say so height, modify.height is basically 8.dp dot width, or you can say fill max width for that. And you can say that background is going to be a random color. So you can create a function over here. So let's say create function, create random color. So you can use that like this. So which means that now it will just generate a random color for you, and you can pass that the box. Yeah, just one more thing that you need to do is that you need to align that to the bottom center, which means now it will be in the bottom of that. And I think that's pretty much what we have. Now we need to take that section and go to the top where we are using all that. You can add this over here, define the mixes and the on click functionality for that. Now let's just run the code, and now hopefully this time we'll have a one more section that will have a horizontal view for the images. We can definitely change the image. I would want that images to be changed, so the each image should have their own kind of a image as well if needed. Okay, and there you go. You can now see that you have all these like um artist or top mixes for like top albums that you have. So like we have all these things as well, and you can use that for this. The And now the last part is going to be the recommendation, and we also need some spacing from the top to bottom. So let's just add those that as well. So we go over here to the home screen again, and now over here where we are placing all those sections, you can add a musify spacer for that, and let's just leave some 16.dp space for that. And the last one is going to be the recommended songs to you, so you can always use that recommendation song section as the last section over here. Now for the recommendation section, again, what we need to do is that we need to create a composable, create function, and say recommendation section, and it's going to be this, definitely a text. I think it should be more like a title R, musify, lazy raw, the grid song. Rather than having a grid song, I'm going to create a more composable, say function, and call it rec song recommendation for that. And now over here inside this, what we need to do is that we need to song recommendation item, say song as song. Okay, that's something. and we will be using pretty much similar to what we have this site, but instead we might not be using any title or names, and it's just that the images. So you can say based on your recent listening, you can say over here, you can say modifier as modifier, and you also need an on click for that. So that's one thing. You have this song, so we can say songs dot cover image. I think cover image is the one that would be better, just suited for this, and you don't need anything else than that. So everything is good now. So now we have all these things that are there, and you can definitely increase the size for this to be 200. The item should go something like this, and now over here, rather than using a grid song, we'll be using this. We'll pass this, all these things to this. And what is left now, we just take that section and we pass it over here to this. We pass the list, recommended songs, and I think once you do that, everything would be done. Now let's just try running the code. Okay, so this is there. Oh, there's just one more issue we've missed adding, so we can add that image size to be 200 as well, and reload this. And now you can see that we have a recommendation section that is there. We have this top mixes section that is over here, and we have this continue listening section, and every item is clickable as well. One more thing that I think we are not able to see over here is that this bar that was supposed to be shown, this box that we created, and I think the reason for that is that, let's just use for now, use color dot red, just for just to see if it's the color generation or something else. Okay, so it's the color generation that's causing the issue. So I think let's just do something as wall red is equals to random dot next int, going to be 200 to 255. We can do for green, and we can do for blue, and then we can say color like this. And let me see if that makes any sense. Okay, you can see that we got some colors, and now we are getting some light colors. So let me just do something as 100. So for this, and now try. Okay, you can see some really nice improvements. And well, the problem that it keeps changing every time, because we are not storing it, and we're just every time for every recomposition it's being called. So we can fix that, and it's not just that like that big of a thing, but I just wanted to show you this. And there is just one more issue with this, is that the image is supposed to be covering the whole, it should cover or like fit the size, since it's a square. So we need to find out why it's not covering that. And we can see that the image is 200, and it's also 200. And you can say content scale, that means that now it should be uh, center content scale. I would say let's just use fill height, sorry, fill width, so that it fills the width. And then yeah, now it looks much better, right? So now you have this albums that you can use. You have the this section, and you have all that. And so yeah, that's pretty much what we wanted to do in this video. And I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like the video, comment on the video, and share the video. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you in the next video. So till then, happy coding. Bye. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you don't forget any update. If you got any question, you can join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Also, for quick updates and tips, you can follow me on Instagram. Until next time, keep learning, keep developing. Bye.